I will now introduce Eva Pascoe. Well, she needs no introduction. And she will talk to us about digital retail and government direction. Eva, you have the floor.
Thank you. Right, let me just make a connection between me and James, because some of you probably wonder why we ended up on the same platform. But as you know, we're not a political outfit. We are unpartied if there ever was one. We just work with whoever is interested in making things to move forward a little bit. And as it happened, James is one of the people who wants to move things forward. So we came across each other for a few months ago on a similar setup, and we thought actually there is an overlap that we wanted to explore. So that's why we're here. That's why we wanted to discuss the issues of centralization versus decentralization and see how we can make it a little bit more practical. So I just wanted to pick up a few things on how we got into the high streets. It's a very hot topic between high street and smart cities. There's obviously a very strong connection, but I got into it via Siberia, which was actually on the high street. And when we started in 1994, for quite a long time, we thought that we're bringing the cyberspace out to the high street. But I think we haven't quite completed the job, which is why I picked up the baton to tail it up with what we consider a cyberspace now and complete the migration. I've known quite a little bit about retail because in between Siberia and other adventures, I was at running the e-commerce for Topshop and another set of very big high street brands with your best friend Philip Green. And I've learned a lot of things that we can implement on the basis of the knowledge we've got in retail into a smaller setup. But why are we having a problem today? We shouldn't have a problem, because if you look at the latest London.gov dashboard, which has got a lot of nice data, so you should go and have a look at it, London is actually growing like crazy. We should have high streets full of everybody. We should have retail thriving, because the actual growth is amazing, not just in the population, but also in visitors. So if you look at forecasts, we are off the chart. We are into completely uncharted territory, because any minute now, there will be more people in London than ever before. And it's the ever before which got us a bit concerned, because if there are so many people in London, then you know what happens, right? There is just not enough space for all of us at the same time, on the same road, in the same moment. So if you look at what James discussed before, the density of people is just becoming unmanageable. So if you look at the time where all these accidents are happening, they are happening because there's just too many people commuting to work at the same little section between 8:30 and 9:30. This is crazy. We should be better than that. We know more technology than this. Is ridiculous. This is 19th century, and we just haven't woken up to it. So let's attack it. Because if we don't, that will be us. Right? And that will be me somewhere commuting on the side of the lorry, not being seen by the driver, surprise, surprise. So this is actually quite really serious problems. Serious because it's happened very quickly. Nobody's fault. London is just the center of the universe, and everybody's piling in from my part of the world, from Poland, from Lithuania, wherever. And you know what? We're not going to stop because we love it here. So we've got to figure out how to absorb all these crowds in a little bit smarter way. Because we have all these fantastic people, but what happened with the high street? The high street is not seeing that. And worse than that, I just looked at the numbers from Manchester, which has claimed recently that it's grown by 20%. Excellent. But it's grown, and it checked up something like £5 billion debt. So it's growing, but it's growing debt as well. So what's happening? And the high street, unfortunately, is not benefiting at all from these new people. The government, bless their socks, tried to solve it. Stuck my old colleague Mary Portas on the high street. She put a lot of flowers on it. But she was putting flowers on the wrong shops. What happened is that they didn't realize during the Portas pilot, which in many ways is quite successful, so I'm not dicing it, but what they hadn't realized that a lot of people got themselves a lot of bandwidth. So while they were putting flowers on the shop, a lot of people just moved off high street completely and ended up just shopping on the internet. So Mary was plugging along with more lampposts and more flowers. 18 million pounds later, she lost 95 shops in her Porter's towns. So that's quite a lot of shops. They should have just given the money to people. Because we all managed to go into digital storm and to Amazon and others. Some nicer company than others. The ones who seen yesterday's program, BBC, probably will not shop on Amazon ever again. But nevertheless, we shifted our habits. So we're sitting there in this digital wind. The stuff is happening so fast that nobody has got a foggiest. And if anybody tells you that they think they know what's going on, they're wrong. So how are we going to tackle it? Well, we're smart, use data. So one of the people who really figured it out quite early on what needs to happen, it's a colleague of mine, Matthew Hopkinson, from a local data company, who has data about all this. This is a room from Rio, which IBM has implemented to help to manage Rio with a lot of data. So we started thinking, well, maybe we should do something similar. So we got together with Bill Grimsey to do alternative high street review, alternative to my reporters, and look at the strategic issues. What actually is going on? Why the high street is going down? Where there is so many more people piling into UK, so many more people piling into high streets, but not buying and not affecting the trade. I don't know if you remember the book which has been written by IBM around 20 years ago, Making Elephants to Dance. So how to make the old, big, crusty company work better. And I sort of took that as a little bit of inspiration, because for me, the high street is a bit like an elephant. It's big. It's got around 250,000 indies, multi-category, has got 600 markets, more than 600 markets, 3 million employees, 120 billion turnover. If you combine all the high streets, it's pretty big. It's bigger than NHS. So how do you make it dance? Well, we looked at a lot of things that make it dance. One thing we know it doesn't make it dance is the parking. Despite everything that the local authorities are saying, parking is a killer. It killed so many high streets without anybody realizing what's going on, and that was one of our recommendations for Bill Grimsey's team. Just forget it. You have to go free. You have to give people at least an hour, 2 hours of parking, and use technology to remove the stress. This is a colleague of ours who did research on galvanic skin response on high streets and found out that there's nothing more stressful in life than looking for a place to park. So we know that. We also have a few other things blowing up our faces, which means the large brands are leaving the high street. They figure out that the internet is more fun, and they're leaving. What they're leaving behind is a lot of little indies. Indies that Phil works with, indies that are colorful, unique, have got character. But one thing they haven't got e-commerce. And unfortunately, that's quite a big deal, because people got used to having services, digital services, having email contact with your retailer, having click and collect, drop and deliver, any way you want it. And where there is a mismatch of digital maturity of customers and digital maturity of the brand, it kind of goes very wrong. So if you look at the people here, we're all more or less wired, the older generation slightly behind, but it's coming along as well. And these people go to the high street, and what do they see? What happened over the last 20 years since I started doing Topshop? The big shops gone forward in leaps and bounds. The small little indies didn't do anything because the technology favors the big. So what we're having, it's a lot more people going online. Even the 65 plus are now beginning to register higher and higher, but retailers are not on top of it. So we thought, okay, let's start thinking network. Let's start thinking how can we do a little bit more help to self-heal the high street, which to us is obviously data. So if you look at what sort of data is flowing around the high street, it looks a little bit like that. It looks a bit like a really dense set of nodes talking to each other, or not. So we looked at things which should be available to make the high street a bit less stressful and more fun, which is knowing about parking slots, knowing about empty shops for pop-ups, having the calendar to book your nail appointment, hairdressing appointment, having real-time data flowing at you every minute of the day, having the deal speed, having the local job offers in real time, and also the digital volunteer slot, because all of this will need a lot of volunteers. All of it will need us to help, because without us, it's not going to happen. So we came up with this concept of network high street, where everything is connected to each other, where the data allows the self-healing, the data allows to adjust the players to fit in the capacity, to fit in the service level, to fit in the categories to what's actually available. And that was the Grimsby review, apart from other recommendations which I'm not going to talk about, from the out-of-town drama with the Tesco, as we know, shuts every little shop, to creating a concept of the high street that's complementary to Tesco. We're not going to fight Tesco, we can't. But we can create a high street which is complementary, lively, digital, plugged into cyberspace, and the difference between reality and cyberspace needs to be minimized. It just grows too big. And obviously what we need fundamentally is the Wi-Fi. I mean, this is one over to James and the government. It needs to go everywhere. There's been already experiments in Birmingham. Virgin has put Wi-Fi in public spaces, and it's looking very, very good. So that's what we need, but the rest is us. This is a picture from Mark's Federfield piece they've done on Snapchat, but it's also, to me, it's us. You know, it's eyes on the street, it's information. Everybody has got a phone which can take pictures. We need you to do that. Because we need to feed the information from you into the knowledge what this high street knows about itself. The high street is not aware of itself. Nobody knows what's going on. The retailers don't know where you are. The retailers don't understand what you want because you're not connected to them. One thing to look at it is to start mapping. We call it dense data. So map the historical routes, how people get to work on bikes, and map where are the hardest places. Learn from our little journeys and solve it little by little, using the predictive data in planning for future. Nobody's going to do it for us. There's no money to retrofit London. I'm sorry, there isn't. But we can solve it by using a little bit smarter our daily journeys and feeding the information to the system. Lots of stuff is happening already. The carpool is happening already. People are organizing bottom up. The free cycle is a fantastic network. Have a look at it. The one I like is pet owners exchanging, which works very, very well and helps a lot of people and the pets who hate kennels. With this, they don't have to cut the kennels. But also, you know, little by little, you can see how people putting the little apps that feed the high street what it needs to know. The one on the top with the high scrapers, it's from UCL. One of the girls did a little project showing how many tweets come from which building. So the highest building is the most tweets, which was quite fun. But I quite liked it because I would like to see it on my high street. Who is connected? Who is on Twitter? Who I can talk to on Twitter, and to whom I still have to send a piece of paper. So that costs nothing. That's just visualization of who is where. The one of the dog is quite fun because you know how much dog shit is on the streets of London. Map it, and send it to the right people so they can start putting higher and higher fines in the places where it really matters, like where my kids go to school. The bunnies app is really sweet. If you know, bunnies don't like going to kennels. This is like a little app which tells people where the bunnies can go while you're on holidays. And a car share. Anyway, everything to minimize and everything to bring the sharing, bottom-up sharing to the point where the services really work well. One thing which we came across is a lot of automation is going on. So the high streets will have less and less people. This is a shop called Hointer, done by one of the Amazon girls, where there is no people whatsoever. So the robots do everything and you never see anybody. We're already looking at few of those coming to UK. So my question to the government would be, this is the bank, staffless bank. This is happening already, not in UK, but it's coming. We're going to have 3 million people who are working in shops today who very soon will not have work. And I'm not entirely sure if anybody has got a foggiest idea how we're going to do that. Because I can tell you, having worked many, many years in retail, these are not easily retrainable people. So as part of that environment, we have to kind of think like, you know, what are we going to do? So we looked at libraries. Part of Grim's report, we looked at libraries. Okay, the one in the front is Nikki doing her yoga. And we looked at how the libraries can take over all this retraining. How are we going to retrain all these masses of people who are going to be eliminated by automation? And I think to me, library is where it's at. It's training, it's spiritual, it's peaceful, it's knowledge. And that's an initiative that we're very, very keen on. connected to recycling. The ones of you that came to our 3D recycling place remember that this is happening faster and faster. So if you can have places on the high street where you bring your old shoes, drop them in the hopper, get them recycled, and then buy new shoes from the same material, then it's slowly beginning to look a bit modern. So this is our kind of proposition. Think about the high streets like small Rios. Small Rio in Hackney, small Rio in Brixton, small Rio in Shoreditch, where all the data comes in the same way like a data platform in big cities, but in a smaller way, making the elephants to down, connect everything, get the digital partnership. And one thing about the data, just to finish it off, we need a partner. I think the government needs to be the partner in the data, because we've noticed that one thing you don't want to do is to have all your data flying around in some mad apps. It really needs to be anchored in the same place where the social security data lives. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I think that's the way to go. So just to finish it off, that's what we're suggesting. The network high street join up to form a smart city. You cannot talk about smart city without having smart high streets, because the level of complexity for the city is way too high. I think it's something that my mathematician friend calls NP hard. It's just too hard to compute. But we probably can do that on the smaller level. So innovation of yesterday is the standard today and history tomorrow. Let's make sure the cities we build today and the networks we build today are going to withstand at least the next 20 years, because otherwise it's going to be all history. Thank you.